Hey, welcome students. We are going to work on our practiced quiz for 1.1 through 1.3. Let's go to work. All right, I think it's very important that you read the directions here. You first need to determine each of the following are functions or not. And if they are, we're going to give the domain and the range. Okay. So first, input, perimeter of a rectangle. Sometimes it's helpful to draw pictures. So the perimeter, that's the outside edge all the way around. And the output is the rectangular length. So let's say, for argument's sake, I had a rectangle with a perimeter of 12. That would be what? 4, 4, 2, and 2. Output is rectangle length. So in other words, I have to have every perimeter that has 12 has to have a length of 4. Well, I could also draw one, and it could be 5, 5, 1, 1. That has a perimeter of 12, but has a different length. So there's more than one output there. So this is not a function. Since it's not a function, I don't have to worry about my domain and range. Number 2, sequence 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. That continues on and on and on forever. Remember, with a sequence, our first number is our first output, second output, third output, fourth output. And these numbers that I'm writing up top, those are my inputs or my x values, and the sequence, the numbers in my sequence is actually my y values or my outputs. So as long as there's no or possibly and between these numbers of a sequence will be a function. So yes, this is a sequence, or yes, it is a function. Now, I got to write my domain and my range. Remember, domain is all the possible inputs. Well, for a function, or excuse me, a sequence, the domain is always from 0 to infinity. And then my range, what are the possible outputs? Well, this thing is either a 0 or a 1. So my range is 0 and 1. Or I could have wrote that 0 and 1. Either way will work. Number 3, is this a function? Well, it has to pass the vertical line test. And no matter where I put a vertical line, it's only going to touch it one time. So yes, is a function. Now, remember my domain and range. My domain is all the possible inputs. Domain is inputs. Now, we're assuming that this thing goes on forever and ever and ever. And if that's the case, my domain would be from, even though it's going down, it's also getting wider. So my domain could be from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, if you had just said, well, I'm just doing the graph here and try to say, well, my domain stops here at negative 4 and it goes all the way over here to 4, I would be okay with that. From negative 4 to 4. I would give you full credit for that as well. But we should be assuming that these things are going on forever. And therefore, my domain would be from negative infinity to positive infinity. Then my range or my outputs are, well, it goes forever and ever and ever down. It goes forever down, right? So it goes all the way to negative infinity. But then, oops, that's 8, negative infinity. And then it only goes up to 4. So from negative infinity to 4 is my range. That was a difficult one. Good. Number 4, is it a function or no? Well, this plus or minus sign may have messed with some of you. Basically, that means that at that negative 4, you could have a negative 2 or a positive 2. So there's 2 outputs at that one input. So this is no, not a function. Because we all know each input can only have one output. Moving on to 5 and 6. Number 5 and 6, I need to evaluate the function. Or glade or glade. What's that mean? Plug it in, plug it in. That's all I got to do is plug it in. So here I'm going to have 2/3 times negative 3 squared minus 5. And that's really over 1. So 2/3. I got to square first. So I got 2/3 times 9. That's really over 1 minus 5. Well, 2 times 9 is 18 over 3 minus 5. Well, 18 divided by 3 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. So evaluate f of negative 3, and it's 1. I got to do that same thing for number 6. I got 2/3 times 3 squared minus 5. Reminder, I always put whatever I'm inputting in parentheses. That helps me remember. So now I got 2/3 times 9, which is really 9 over 1, right? Minus 5. Well, 2 times 9 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3. 18/3 minus 5. Well, 18 divided by 3 is really 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. So f of 3 equals 1. It don't always happen, but it did here. But you got the same answer for 5 and 6. Again, if you just put the answer down and you were right, I'd give you full credit. But if you make some type of error and you don't show your work, you won't get the points. All right. Number 7 and 8 says graph the function using appropriate inputs. Reminder, appropriate inputs. Anytime I have a root, I'm going to need to use the perfect squares. 0, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on, right? But remember, I write those at the top, 0, 1, 4, 9, 16. And then I think to myself, what plus 10 equals 0? Well, that's a negative 10. What plus 10 equals 1? Well, that would be a negative 9. And that's how I'm choosing my inputs. What plus 10 equals 4? It would be a negative 6. And then a negative 1 and a 6. Hope you understand how I chose those inputs. Now I still have to put those functions in. I've got to go f of negative 10 equals the square root of negative 10 plus 10, which is the square root of 0, which is 0. And do that over and over and over again. And by this time, by this time, we should have done enough of these problems that you realize that every time that we chose these numbers at the top, every time we chose those, we got these numbers at the bottom. And that's just the way it is. I mean, that's what we did all that work and all that homework and practice problems for, so you understand and you start to get used to that. So now let's plot those points. I got the point negative 10, 0. I got negative 9, 1. I got negative 6, 2. I got negative 1, 3. And 6, 4. Booyah. I chose the appropriate inputs. I plugged them in, evaluated, plotted my points. For number 8, again, I have to choose appropriate inputs. I like this one, though, because there's nothing special. There's no fraction, no root. So I can just choose -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay, so f of -2 equals -2 squared minus 3, which is 4 minus 3, which is 1. Find f of -1, which is -1 squared minus 3. -1 squared is 1, minus 3 is -2. I really shouldn't have to do that one because it's the initial value, which is -3. What you're going to find later, as you learn about a quadratic, is that this one, f of 1, is going to be a mirror image of f of -1 because there's no junk. So 1 squared minus 3 is 1 minus 3, which is -2. And then finally, f of 2 is 2 squared minus 3, which is 4 minus 3, which is 1. Again, a mirror image. So I have -2, 1, -1, -2, 0, -3, 1, -2, and 2, 1. There is my U-shaped graph or my parabola. And finally, moving on, 9 and 10. Now, 9 and 10, I have to find the average rate of change from -4 to 4 and the initial value of each function. Okay, so rate of change from -4 to 4 and my initial value. Well, let's just be honest. My initial value is super easy. It's -7, right? Now, let's find f of -4, which is -1/4 times -4 minus 7. Well, that ends up being 4/4 minus 7, or 1 minus 7, which is -6. So I did all that work to show this is the order pair, -4, -6. Let me find now f of 4. F of 4 is -1/4 times 4 over 1 minus 7. So that's -4/4 minus 7, which is a -1, minus 7, which is a -8. So all that to find the ordered pair for -8. Now I got to use the slope formula, which is -8 minus a -6 over 4 minus a -4. Minus a negative becomes plus. This becomes a -2 over 8, or a -1/4. So my rate of change from -4 to 4 is a -1/4. Cool? So here I have my rate of change and initial value. Now, for those of you who are really smart or catch on to things, remember y equals mx plus b, where b is our y-intercept or initial value, m is our rate of change or slope. Look right here. We could have done this one really easily and just looked in front of the x and saw that my m, or my rate of change, was a -1/4. That make anybody mad? The more you know, easier life is. All right, last one, number 10. Again, I got to find my rate of change from -4 to 4, and then my initial value. I'm again going to start with my initial value just because it's so easy. My initial value is my y-intercept. In this case, it's 0. And then from -4 See, I go to -4. There it is. And I go to 4. There it is. So I find my distance between, or my rate of change between those 2 points. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, directly above the other one. And then down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 4. So a -4/8 or a -1/2. So there you are. That's each of the quiz problems done for you. I hope that was helpful to see it explained in that way. And your test is on, or your actual quiz is on Thursday. Good luck. Have a great day.